Hey guys, my name is Aaron from Geeky Lemon Development and welcome to our Xcode tutorials. In this tutorial, we're going to be learning all about AdMob banner ads within the Swift language. Now before we jump straight into this, if you enjoy this tutorial and want to further your knowledge and learning ability, why not enroll in one of the many courses we have available on iOS development. All links for these will be down below in the description. But let's jump straight in to the tutorial. In this section of the course, we're going to be talking about how we can generate and earn revenue from displaying advertisements directly within our applications. What we're going to do is take a look at Google's very own AdMob advertising platform, which we can get served ads directly from them to display them in our application to earn money. Now you would have seen kind of all these different types of ads displayed in many free applications on the App Store, and that's pretty much what we're going to implement in this app and project in this lecture. Now what we're going to focus in this lecture is displaying AdMob banners within the app. In the next coming lectures we'll also talk about interstitial ads and video ads, which we'll add in further on in this section of the course. So before we jump straight into it, we first need to talk about what AdMob is, and we need to get an account all created and set up ready for us to start generating ads. So if you head over to the internet now and simply go to the AdMob website, you then simply sign up and create your account, and I've got the page loaded up here, which I've already got my account created. All we've done now is going to set up a brand new app. So every time you want to add ads to your application, you have to create it as a profile on the AdMob website. So the first question it asks you is, have you published your application to the Google Play Store or App Store just yet? It doesn't really matter if you have or if you haven't. It's just a way of creating the profile, getting it all preset up. Now we haven't done this, so we're going to select no. And then we're going to give the application name. Now, it doesn't really matter what you call it. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as the application you're creating. This is just for the profile on the AdMob website. So when you start generating money and get the reports of how well the application is doing, this is what it's going to be called in your reports. So I'm just going to call it AdMob iOS 12. There we go. And select the platform here to be iOS and press Add. So once we do that, then we get generated our application ID. Then we can go on to create our very own brand new ad unit ID. So if we go and create one of these now then, and we had the ability to now select one of the 3 different kind of advertisements that we can learn about in this section of the course. Now in this lecture we're going to be focusing on solely the banner, which is a rectangle advertisement that can be displayed within the application. So we're going to select this then. And once we do, we get to give it a simple name. So you can see the ad format is banner, ad unit name here. I'll just simply call it banner. It's just easy enough to understand and kind of see when we start getting the reports to see which advertisement's doing better. We do have some advanced settings as well. Now you want to make sure that the ad type here, you have both of these selected. So text, image and rich media and video enables us then to get the maximum amount of revenue for the ads that are being displayed. Now, not always we're going to have a video or an image. Sometimes it will only display text, sometimes only images. It just depends what's available at that current time. Also, automatic refresh rate, leave it on Google Optimize because they know best. They know what the best way to target ads to users are. So we keep it all that. So you do have advanced settings, but by default, I would recommend leaving them as they are. And then we're going to create this ad unit. So once we create it, then we get given the actual physical ad ID that we're going to be implementing into our project. So before we jump straight into it, and we do have a few different things or things that we need to take care of first. So we've created the ad and the profile of our application. What we need to do now then before we implement it into our application itself is we need to download the Google Mobile Ads SDK. And what the SDK requires us to, enables us to have is the framework that we're going to be importing, which has all the capabilities that we can reference and get the AdMob banners to be displaying. So once you click on that little link there, if I go back to it, bring us to this Get Started page. And just down below, we can then go to manually download the SDK. So it says here, you can also download a copy of the SDK framework, directly unzip the file and import the framework into your project in Xcode, which is pretty much what we want to do. So you click on the little download section there, and that would take us to the Google Mobile Ads SDK page. And all you're going to do then is click the little package, and that will then download it to wherever you're going to save it on your computer. Now, I've already got this downloaded anyway. I've got the Google Mobile Ads framework already downloaded. So that's pretty much what you download. You unzip it, you get given this framework. It's just like any other framework that you would normally have within your project. But we don't have it in Xcode to choose from because this is, an online resource created by Google. So once you've got the framework, then you're ready to add it into your project. So we're going to bring up Xcode now. And what we'll do now, we'll drag and drop this brand new framework into our project. There we go. We're going to make sure that we select the destination and add it to all 3 targets. So it's a little bit different to how you would normally add a framework in because this is an external framework. Press finish. And that's now imported in. And you should 100% and double check that it is imported in. Go to your build phases, drop down your link binary of libraries, and you should have the Google Mobile Ads framework also imported here. If it hasn't, just simply press the little plus symbol here. Go to add other, where you can then find it within your project directory or simply add it directly from the desktop itself, just in case it doesn't display there. So we got that in. If I went to my viewcontroller.swift, I can then import the framework into this class. So to import it, we type in import and then type in Google Mobile Ads. So now you kind of see there that I had the ability to reference it. That's how we know 100% the framework was imported correctly and we can use it. So before we jump straight back into them, we're going to head back over to that resource online. Now, if I go back to our previous page, let me just close this down and go back to what we selected here, the SDK guide here. We want to talk about and look at the banner format just over here on the left-hand side. So we select banner. And that will give us then a kind of starting guide to implementing AdMob banners within our application. So the main thing we want to look at first then is straight away, it says the easiest way to load test ads is to use our dedicated test ad unit ID, which is this format here. So our application, when we created our banner then, this is the ID that you want to implement into your application to start generating ads linked to your profile. But for testing purposes, they give us an ID that we can use, because technically you don't really want to use live ads for testing, because obviously it generates ads. It will mess with your kind of like CPM and stuff like that. So always use test ads while we're doing it. But we'll talk about that a little bit later anyway, and we'll talk about this a little bit later anyway. But we want to focus on, if I scroll down, the programmatically section of it. So we can do the Swift or Objective-C. Obviously we're focused on Swift. And it's going to give us a little guide to how we can implement this into our project. But the thing that we want to focus on the most is the actual banner sizes at the very bottom. So all these sizes here is what we can implement with inside of our main.storyboard, our interface builder, when we're adding in our ads. Now, we have different ones. We have banners, which is 320 by 50, large banners. These are kind of large ones here, which will be kind of useful for tablets, like iPad. You can see what its availability there. But one that you probably want to go with the most, that choose over every other one, is the smart banners here. The smart banners allow us to have a fixed height of either 32, 50 or 90, and then they are used dynamically for the screen width of the application. So if you're creating a universal app, this is the way to go. You can make the banners automatically adjust for the application. So that's what I want to focus on. So let's go back into our project then, and let's jump straight into our main.storyboard. Now in here, we're going to implement in our very own ad within our application. So what we would normally do when we add a normal object in is we'll go to our library, find the object that we want and implement it in the interface and set up constraints and do all that good stuff with it. The only downside is that we don't have an AdMob object to use. So we kind of have to tweak what we would normally do. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in a simple UI view. So if I scroll to the bottom now, we've added in view and drag and drop on in. And what I'll quickly do now, I'll change the background of the view just so you can see it a lot easier. We'll go with this green here. So this is a basic UI view. We're going to simply use this and kind of change the features and how we interact with it to become what's known as a Google AdMob banner. So if I go to the Identity Inspector here and select within the class and type in Google AdMob banner view and press enter, that now is no longer a UI view. That's now become a Google AdMob banner view. And this is what's going to be used to store and display ads inside of it. So I'm going to want this then to basically display ads at the very bottom of my application. So if I drag and drop it to the bottom, I'll fill it so it touches both sides. And remember, we're using a smart banner. If I quickly go back to that resource now, I'm going to use the middle one, the 50 one. So let's have it set at a height here of 50. So drag it down till we're at 50. There we go. And that's going to be my banner. So I do have the option to go bigger, can go a bit smaller. It's entirely up to us what we want to do with it. We have the option to go 32, 50 or 90. Then the rest is just all down to the screen width. But this is going to be our banner then. So if I then add in some constraints, if I fixate the height at 50 so it doesn't get any bigger or smaller, and then pin the constraints to the left, the right, down below, making sure that it goes to the safe area so it doesn't go underneath the iPhone X home button, and add in those 4 constraints. So there we go. If I then resize my screen, no matter what happens, the banner view stays fixated at 50 in terms of its height, but the screen width gets bigger and bigger. It's pretty cool, isn't it? So let's zoom back in then. And what we're going to do now is we're going to create this banner view now as an outlet. And once we create it as an outlet, then we can then reference it to equal it to an ad unit ID, tell it what type of banner it's going to be, and then tell it when to load up an ad and when to disappear when there's an ad not available. So click on the file zoner and bring up the assistant editor, get rid of our side panel there so we've got a little bit more room to work with. And we've already got the import of our Google Mobile Ads framework there. So we're just going to drag and drop now our UI view, which used to be our UI view, now our banner view. And you can see it has changed because the type of it here is a GAD, Google AdMob banner view. And I simply call it banner and connect that up. Perfect. So once we've got that up, then we're now going to close the assistant editor and go back to our standard editor. We're pretty much done for the most part with our kind of interface builder for now. So we're going to go straight to our view controller.swift and start to code it to get it to do what we want it to do. So straight away, what I'm going to do is have the banner view be hidden within our application. So type in banner and do .isHidden to equal true. Now the reason we hide it is because we don't know whether we have an ad to show to the user. So by default, we always hide it. So the reason why we won't have an ad, maybe a user doesn't have an internet connection, or maybe just Google doesn't have an ad to display or target to that user at this current moment. So what we do is by default, we set it to hidden. And then once we have an ad available, that's when we'll then unhide and reveal the banner to the user. So if I go back to the resource online then, and if we scroll up now then, there's a bunch of different kind of stuff that we can check out to enable us to load and kind of show our banners in our application. But if I scroll to the very top now then, and we should have in here somewhere, here we go then. So at the start of it, we need to make and basically set up our banner view here to an ad unit ID. And we need to also set the root view controller to itself. We also need to set the delegate to itself as well, and then load the request up. So I'm just going through now to make sure these no other configurations that we need to check out from the get-go. But for the most part, it's pretty much going to be fully functional. So before we do set the delegate then, after our UI view controller here, we're going to space here, add in our GAD banner view delegate. This is so our banner view can read the functions that we're going to be adding in. So first things first, then we'll get our banner and we do .delegate to equal itself. We're then going to get our banner to then do .add unit ID to equal a string. Now, when you eventually submit your application to the App Store, and if you want it to display your own ads linked to the profile you've created, this is where on AdMob you add in that add unit ID that was created and generated for your application. Now, just for the purpose of testing, I'm going to use the test ID that they give us in the kind of guide here. So just remember, if you do use the test ID, eventually at some point you'll need to add in your actual ID to be able to implement it and display real ads linked to your profile. So in Xcode then, this is where you place in your ad unit ID. Again, this is the test one. I can't stress this enough. When you eventually submit your application to the App Store, make sure you've got your actual link to your profile up, so you do start to earn revenue. So we've told the banner that that's the ad unit ID that we're going to be equaling. So then we need to tell it what type of ad it's going to be. So we type in our banner again, we do .add size, and then we do basically have that simply equal the format that we want. So going back and referencing our guide now, and I scroll down to we had the different styles. And you can see here the smart banner, we've got the interface in portrait mode. So the add constant here, we want to select this, highlight it, copy by doing Command C, and paste it as to what the ad size is going to equal. So it now knows it's going to be a smart banner in a portrait mode. Then we get our banner and do dot root view controller to equal itself there. And then we call our banner once more to do dot load. And what we're going to be loading in our load request here is a GAD request. And we end that there with the 2 brackets as the function. And that's pretty much all we get set up within the view did load. So this all happens when the view loads up, but as always, it's going to have the banner view to be hidden. So nothing will actually happen. It won't display any ads. It kind of will, but it won't because we're not displaying the banner to the user. So this is where we set the delegate now, and then we call upon 2 different functions for our banners. So the 2 functions we're going to look at then is the add view did receive ad and the add or the did fail to receive ad with error. So there's many functions in which we can use within it. If I then find our guide here, so implementing banner events. So the one we want to focus on is the did view ad receive, or did view, I can't even say it, did view did receive, why am I saying did? I don't know. Add view did receive ad, there we go. I'm having one of those moments. This tells the delegate that an ad request loaded in the ad, and this function here is what we have set up to basically display the ad. So we could simply copy this function here and within Xcode paste it in. But you see here, by default, it prints out a function or a statement there. We don't want it to do that. We want to get our banner dot is hidden to equal false. So that means it will then reveal it to the user. So if there's an ad available, the banner view will become unhidden and then display it to the user. But at any given point, our user could lose internet connection, or the next ad that's going to be displayed does not exist, or Google can't find another ad to display. So what happens then? Well, we need another function that basically, if there's no ads available, user loses the internet connection, maybe there's a little error or warning, to then hide the banner from the view. This is just a way of simply making sure that we dismiss it. It doesn't make our application look ugly, staring at a blank white or black screen, because this banner has now just caused an error in our application. So we need another type of function. So if you go through all these then, tells the delegate when an ad request did fail. This one here, did fail to receive ad with error. So this one, if I copy and paste this in, it's basically saying then if there's any errors that occur within the application, this is gone on 2 lines weirdly enough, then what was going to happen if anything happens or anything negative happens to the banner. We'll just simply get our banner dot is hidden to equal true. And that then simply hides it from the user. So if there's an ad, show it. If there's not an ad, make it disappear. It's as simple as that. Now, because we're using the test unit ID here, we should have then the ability to see ads straight away. Now, if you're actually placing in your own ID linked to your profile, you might notice that it will take a few moments before you start receiving ads in your application, because every newly created generated profile on AdMob, it can take around about 20 to 30 minutes before you start receiving ads. So just bear that in mind if it doesn't load up straight away. But because we're using a test one, it's going to load up straight away anyway. So we just wait for our application to now build and run. And then once it does, once we've got the test ad ready to go, there you go. We're now displaying an AdMob ad banner directly within our application. So it does say test ad here because I'm using that ad ID, but if I select it, you can then see how it will go on to work. That's how we interact with an actual AdMob banner within our application. And you can see exactly what it did. It took us to a link for the AdMob website. How cool is that? So this is one way in which we can start earning revenue within our applications, just by giving up a small little bit of screen space to an AdMob banner. It will start generating us money within our application. Now again, I can't stress this enough. I feel like I need to repeat this like 10 million times. When you eventually submit your application to the App Store, please remember to put in your own profiled ad unit ID for your banner. Don't submit it with the test ads, because you won't start generating money. You will start generating money for like Google, and you don't want to do that. So just remember to change that ID if you do submit it, or just double check that the test ads work. Once you know the test ads work like they are right now, then paste in your own ad unit ID and just leave it as that. So there we go, that's how we can add in AdMob banners directly within our applications. In the next lecture, we're going to talk about how we can learn and implement in interstitial ads. And interstitial ads are a lot different from AdMob banners. Interstitial ads load up like an AdMob banner, but they go completely full screen and take over the whole application. And we'll learn all about that in our next lecture.